Hey guys, welcome back. The past few weeks for me have been quite physically intensive with redoing this plant shelf, redoing part of the kitchen, semi-impromptu website restock. So today I am more than happy to just slow down. It is also very warm in this room today, so I am very content to not do plant chores today other than possibly watering. But basically I just want to give you some updates on some plants that you've seen in the past. Some I've hauled recently, put out nice growth, maybe talk about what might be working for them if I'm kind of learning something along the way. If you watched my video last week, I mentioned that while this whole shelf project was going on, a lot of the plants had to be shoved in places that were not ideal for their growth, like with very little light, very little humidity. Maybe they got some mechanical damage from being smushed up against each other. So I am very grateful for any plant that is looking very good right now. So I just want to celebrate it. And I wanted to start with this one plant that I've been trying to nurse back to health for the past, I don't know, 6 months or so, and it's still not quite there, but it has put out a new leaf that I'm obsessed with. And that is my Carla by Black Widow Michelle, which I haven't shown in a while, but it's just put out this new leaf and it is absolutely gorgeous. I got a little bit scuffed here, unfortunately, when I was moving plants around, but I'm just happy it's put out a new leaf and the veins on it are so nice. This cross was done by Brendan at Buzz Plants, and a lot of the people who have this cross from this batch have plants that are way bigger than mine. I don't think I got the strongest specimen, but it is stunning. I took a little gamble picking out a seedling, trying to choose one with thin veins that might end up looking like the Black Widow Michelle mother plant, which I'll put right here. And I feel like it's getting there, although it's not quite as round. Which is funny because the Carla and the Black Widow Michelle are both really round parents, but this one's looking a little bit more tapered, but it has really nice, like ruffly edges. It has that on a lot of the older leaves, although the older leaves are not looking so good. This one never uncurled. Also, this one never uncurled, but you can kind of see like all of them have kind of a frilly margin. You can definitely see it on this one here. And the leaves also have like a very long taper at the very tip. But the thing I'm the most excited about is the venation because I think it does have a really good chance of ending up looking like the pollen parent. So the story behind it looking like this is that I think this happened while I was on holiday at Christmas time. And I think it rotted some roots. It might have dried out. I'm not really quite sure. But when I came back, a lot of the roots were dead and the leaves were looking like super curled back like this, just very thirsty looking. So I repotted it. I'm trying to remember what I repotted it into that first time. I think it was tree fern with added, like amended with perlite and pon. And I want to say it started to root out again in that mix. And I'm pretty sure it rotted its roots again. So then I repotted it into tree fern with even more perlite and pon. So the mix I've been using a lot to rehab finicky plants with weak root systems lately has been like 50-50 tree fern and pon. And the pon I'm using is my DIY pon. If you want to see the mix, I'm still using that mix, plus or minus the orchiata sometimes, but if you want to see the mix, it's somewhere in my videos. Just look for it, you'll find it. And while it has been rooting, the roots don't look super strong to me. There are some that look like they might be a little bit rotted. Usually when I see a rotten root here or there at the edge of the pot, I don't necessarily always unpot the plant and like cut off dead roots and like completely redo everything. I will monitor to see if the new root growth is outpacing the dying off of old roots and if the plant actively looks like it's deteriorating. So right now it's actively growing, so I'm not necessarily going to unpot it, but there is a rotten root. Where is it? Hopefully you can see it, but up here there are some dead roots. This is by far the plant that I get the most requests to buy cuttings of. And I'm sorry to say that I don't think I'm going to be cutting it anytime soon because I don't trust that this is strong enough to be cut. But even if I did cut it, there's like a lineup of 3 friends that have already asked for it. So I won't be selling any cuttings, maybe ever, or anytime in the near future. But before I even cut it for a friend, I do want to see if I can get it to fully establish and be quote unquote thriving, because I don't think this plant has ever thrived for me. So I think the next time I repot it, we'll just be going into a bigger pot. And I want to make sure I do a very pawny tree fern mix for it. I will do the leca layer at the bottom, so I have the option of putting a leca layer on it because I don't think this plant likes to dry out in the slightest. Judging by the roots, they're all very thin, like soba noodle roots. It's never put out a thick root for me. And whenever I've had these kind of very thin root anthuriums in the past, they really like to be kind of wet all the time. So the extra potting mix is to ensure that I don't let it get too muddy in here, because I think that has been a struggle for me. I think I veered too dense into my tree fern soil mix. So when I've been using this very rocky tree fern mix lately, a lot of the plants have responded really well with it. The only downfall is that it dries out faster than tree fern soil. So I have to be a little bit more on top of the watering, especially now in the summer when things are so warm. But anyway, I really wanted to start off with this plant because this has been a very highly anticipated leaf. And I just want to show you that texture. It's got a little bit of that pebbly grain. Oh, it's just so pretty, and it's so black. Next up is a plant that I haven't shown you guys in quite a while, I don't think, but that is my Carla Bev Vap. This is not the one that I've been breeding with. This is the one we got from Pau and Josh. This was like the first box they ever sent to us. It was a little seedling, and it's so stinking pretty. It actually is quite a lot easier of a grower than my original Carla Bev Vap, which is the GPH by Round. But I really love like how crisp and clean those veins are, and it's slightly spidery in pattern. This one has more of a tall lobe, and I think it has a little bit more bee tendencies, but it had been growing in a 4-inch pot for so long it was super root bound, so I repotted it into 5-inch. I think this was maybe like 3 weeks ago or so, and I repotted it into the very pond heavy tree fern mix. At the time it didn't have this leaf, so it started pushing the leaf right after, and it's been rooting really well. The older leaf had that weird like mite damage looking, but what I think is fungal, because it doesn't show up on emergent leaves. It just starts to show up after the leaf is fully hardened, and just like as the leaf gets older and older, it starts to attack it. I'm not really sure what it is. I have a feeling that it was a combination of root burn from like overfeeding, over fertilizing, possibly root burn from the sea soil component that I was using that I no longer use for indoor plants. I just use it for outdoor gardening stuff. And also possibly when I was away, the tent wasn't being opened up because I don't run fans in there, and I do not want to run fans in there. So I'd been repotting any plants that were in sea soil, tree fern soil, into like either this mix or mostly this mix actually, in the hopes of trying to reestablish some roots, making sure they're inoculated with great white, and just seeing if that helps, because I wanted to go this route and try to get this plant stronger rather than using antifungal, which would have been a last resort, and I haven't gotten there yet. But since a lot of plants that were showing that earlier are putting out new leaves that are not developing this dusty stuff, I'm going to say that maybe we're starting to get better now. So I will keep an eye on this leaf to see if it starts to develop this dusty stuff. But this is what I'm talking about, and a lot of plants have it worse than this. So we will see. This one is only a freshly hardened off leaf, so it can still develop on it, so I'll keep an eye on it. I'm also thinking about moving this one to ambient because I think it would be really pretty here, and as you can see by this leaf, it was growing into another plant, so it's getting pretty crowded in there as the plants are getting bigger. And even though it hasn't been that long since I put it into this pot, I think it'll be ready for an 8-inch pot fairly soon. Definitely when I move into ambient, I want it to be in a larger pot that can like hold more moisture, so that's a slightly longer term goal. But anyway, I love this plant. It's so dark, it's pretty easygoing as far as Carla Bev Vaps go in my experience, and I just love that sinus. Speaking of Carla hybrids, I am so obsessed with this new leaf. This is my Carla Lux that I got from my friend Amanda. I think this hybrid was done by Paul, but can we just appreciate that oil slick, that texture? And I'm trying not to get the glare so you can really see how black this plant is. This is the newest leaf. Here's a fully hardened leaf. It stays super dark. Again, trying not to get the glare so you can really see the color. It is definitely the darkest anthurium I own. And I'm not giving it any particular light conditions. It's in like kind of the bottom layer of my tent. It's not low light by any means, but I don't think I'm blasting it with light either. But I'm curious if lower light will do anything different to it. But I also at the same time, I don't want to give it lower light than this if it's able to maintain shortish petioles, because one thing I don't want is for it to start reaching. So if in like pretty bright conditions, it's going to give me leaves this black, then I'm pretty happy to continue that. This one's potted in tree fern soil, and it's super happy. I've accidentally let it dry out a few times. It has not freaked out like a lot of Lux hybrids I own, which is kind of surprising because I thought this one might be a more finicky one. But I really dwindled down my Lux hybrid collection, and this is one of the very few that I'm going to be keeping. Of all the Lux hybrids I've ever owned, I feel like this one is truly a standout one. And I'm still waiting for this to flower so I can cross it back to Carla, because I think that would make really, really fun little plants. My hope is basically this, but just a little bit velvetier, maybe with veins that are a little bit more visible, and that would be just my ideal cross. Next is a plant that's fairly new to me, and I only got it a few weeks ago, but I thought you guys would be interested in seeing the newest leaf. This plant I got from Nick and Corbin at NXE Plants in a trade. So this one is Bev by Espinova DF. They gave me such a healthy and strong specimen, which should come as no surprise. It is in a mixture of Laverock, Perlite, Pumice, and Stratum. This is their mix, and they put a little leca layer at the bottom. So I've been leaving it in a bit of a reservoir. It's been rooting out a ton since I got it, and it just popped a leaf. It is so triangular. It's got a little bit of a twist at the bottom, which I always enjoy. And I'm just so happy that it doesn't hate me. I really love, which is it this leaf? I really love this leaf. Just the venation on it is so vertical. I'm not giving it a ton of light. I'm trying to see how dark I can get it. Yeah, but I don't think this is a plant that would do well in ambient for me, just because the texture of it is quite thin. I mean, I could be wrong, but also the roots on it are also quite thin for an anthurium. So whenever I do repot it, I'm going to probably try to replicate this to some degree. I don't know if I'll have the stratum for it, but something rocky like this I can keep in a reservoir, because I'm pretty sure this is their trial and error, figuring out this is what works best for, I don't know, DF or like DF hybrids. By the way, if you haven't watched their channel, I highly recommend you check them out, because they are incredibly talented growers and their mother plants are massive. So if you like no nonsense growing advice, very science driven, that is the channel for you. Okay, so sticking with kind of wavy triangle plants, I'm like conflicted about this because it looks so good and so bad at the same time. My Midnight Velvet just put out this new leaf, and it is so beautiful. So this is one of those plants I was showing, like that dusty fungal stuff in the older leaves. Here's an older leaf with the dusty fungal stuff. But the newer leaves haven't been getting it, and the colors on the newer leaves have been so nice. It's so dark, and it's really holding on to the pink veins. Do you see that pink in the sinus? And in the back, you see how pink that is. I just love how twisty the leaves are. The really kind of bluish dark green with the hot pink and that really long taper. I freaking am obsessed with this plant. This new leaf sized up a little bit for me. I do want to repot it. This one is in the tree fern soil that's with sea soil, which I haven't been loving, which surprisingly this plant is not fully rejecting, but I do want to repot it into that like pond heavy tree fern mix. I'm not really sure what exactly to do, because so what I really want to do is like have this plant look nicer again and get rid of these leaves. I do also want to cover the stem, but also at the base of it, it's actively putting out an offset. So I don't want to fully bury that offset. I want to give it a chance to grow out. So I'm not really sure what I should prioritize right now. I don't know. I can't even put a collar on it without burying the offset, or I don't know. I probably will cut this leaf off and this leaf off. Maybe, no, definitely those two, maybe one of the more fungally ones from before, and just keep this one, and this one. I was chatting with someone the other day, and I was just saying how I really am still looking for a papillolanum that has a really wide sinus and basically has this look. But now that I'm looking at this, like, do I need that? I don't think I do, because this is so twisty. It has a wide sinus. It's not slightly, very asymmetrical. I think that gives it a lot of visual interest, and I just love how the lobes kind of like taper off to the sides. And on top of that, it has the hot pink veins. So maybe I'm rethinking it. Maybe I don't need something like, you know, one of the Ralph Lynam cells that have that gnarly look, because this checks all those boxes. So I don't know, I do want it, but I don't need it. And this plant is currently being covered by another plant, which I think is partly why it's so dark, because it's being shaded. So I have to actively push leaves aside in order to see this plant. And every time I do, I just fall back in love with it. It's just, oh, it's so good. Okay, next I want to give you guys some updates on plants that I've bred, starting with this Pap. So this one was from the batch of Pap RA5 Self by Fortune Ralph Linum, and it's just put out a new leaf and it is so long. This is the only one I've held back for myself from this whole batch, and I held it back because it was quite dark, and I want to say I held it back also because it looks a lot more Fortune and Ralph Linum compared to the RA5 Self. Like it's a lot more daggery, it's a little bit blue tone, it's a lot more sharp. Like this last leaf I loved so much because it's so pointy, but this one, the lobes are super round on this one and quite close together, like compared this one to this one, but it's still really daggery. And I also wish that I had filmed maybe 3 or 4 days ago because this leaf was so peachy. It was like a corally orangey peach, and you can kind of see on the back like how pink it is, but it's got this like very almost like tropical looking peach, and now the front is starting to like the more bronzy brownie is starting to bleed in. I think when this hybrid was made I was starting to feel the pap fatigue where there was just like papillomatum overload everywhere and it was being bred all the time, so I was getting kind of tired of looking at it, so I didn't really want to keep that many for myself, but I knew I wanted to keep one. And now I'm starting to come back around to all the dark and daggery things like the Midnight Velvet, the Bev Vap by DF, this kind of thing where it's like very minimally veined but really dark and sharp. And this is one of those long and daggery plants in my tent that I've been finding a lot of joy in. And sometimes I forget that I made this, but it's so cute. It is definitely ready for a repot. Look at all those roots coming out the bottom. It hasn't really been sizing up for that reason. One of the reasons why I haven't sized it up is because my tent is so full and I'm not super ready to move it out into ambient just yet, but it's constantly growing. And when the leaves harden off, they get so dark. Like this is two leaves back, I think. Yeah. So this was the last leaf and this is the leaf prior, and the color on it is just so good. I just wish it had a little bit wider of a sinus. I do hope that this is a one-off because based on every leaf has had like more of a V-shaped sinus with sharper lobes. They're just a little bit pointier on top. And this is kind of more of a one-off, but it's still maintaining a really, really elongated form. We sold a lot of these as much smaller plants, so I don't know how they're maturing, but every one that I've seen looks more Fortune and Ralph Linum than Pap RA5 because my Pap RA5 Self is very round, quite green, and has overlapping lobes. It's super bolate, but a lot of the ones I'm seeing of people tagging me on Instagram are like this. They're very dark, kind of a little bit more smoother and just more triangular and sharp. So when I pollinated the RA5 with the Fortune Ralph Linum, the Fortune Ralph Linum had just, like I just acquired the plant and it came to me with a flower. So I used the pollen on the Pap RA5, and ever since then it has not flowered again until very recently. It started to flower again. So I'm kind of excited to start breeding with it again. I don't know if it's strong enough to make berries, but I did want to breed it together with Mr. Worldwide or something like that with a wide sinus and see what kind of pointy thing I can make. But for this one, based on all the more juvenile leaves, it's not mature yet. It is in caterpillar, but it's definitely nowhere close to mature. Because the leaves are always way longer than they are wide, I'm very much looking forward to what it'll look like when it's like maybe this big. I don't think it's gonna be thin like a strap, but I hope that it maintains that dagger look. Another one of my holdbacks, this one is from the Dark Phoenix by King of Spades batch, and this is the only one that I'm definitely keeping for myself. I have, I think, 5 left that I haven't sold. There were a couple in my Mills bow downstairs that got a little bit of, there was a little brush with thrips in there that I think is gone now, but I couldn't sell anything out of there. But this one is the one that I kept for myself because of the veins. Like it's so spidery and it's so round. The newest leaf, unfortunately, when I was doing all the shelf stuff, I was moving plants around a lot and it got scuffed up and it got a little bit of what looks like possibly flat mite damage. I'm not super 100% sure it's even flat mite damage because it is so microscopic. Usually I find flat mite damage a little bit more visible than that, but I will keep a close eye on it, and it's just hardening off now. So once it hardens off a bit more, it's going to get darker like this one. So right now it's a little bit more green, but I am happy to say that it's maintaining the really wide, very flat and pinstripe, slightly spidery venation. So this batch was done between me and Jing. So the Dark Phoenix was her Dark Phoenix, the King of Spades was mine. And I was very pleasantly surprised how much King of Spades came through on the final hybrids, because the dark phoenix genes tend to really dominate any cross that you do with it, but also king of spades is quite strong. But because they're such different looking plants, I wasn't really sure what to expect out of the final hybrids. This one so far is looking like what would have been my ideal. The veins are super minimal, but it's really dark, and a lot of the king of spades color, like the red and the purples, are washed out. So it's kind of like a king of spades wearing a dark phoenix skin. I'm pretty sad that this leaf got all scuffed up and damaged, but you know, it's gonna grow a new leaf in the next few weeks. And hopefully by that time, it'll be a nice big upsize and we'll start to see more of its final form. But it's been very consistent in the venation so far, and I'm really excited to see this one grow. I also wanted to show you some of my holdbacks from the Carla Bev Vap batch. So these two are my bigger ones. Here's one I held back that I don't know if I'm going to keep forever, but for now I'm really enjoying growing it. A lot of them look very Carla, and this one has a little bit more of a bumpy texture. This new leaf is pretty bumpy, and the one prior to that quite bumpy as well. And then this one I held back because of this leaf, which I thought was so cute. It's so dark and the veins look quite nice. I did like this very drumstick looking shape where it's quite big on top and it kind of tapers down, but I do believe this little pinch here means that it was slightly deformed coming out of the sheath. It's very subtle, but sometimes you'll see a leaf come out where it has like basically like cut cheekbones. It's more of like a pinch than the actual leaf morphology, if that makes sense. But that little pinch here made me kind of look at it twice, so I decided to pot it into 4-inch pot, and we'll see how this new leaf forms. A lot of them have very pink veins, which I know will just get pinker as time goes on, so I'm holding some back to see how pink they can be. And a lot of you guys know, and I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way, that GPH is one of my favorite Carlas because it's so elongated and the veins are so pretty. There's very little secondary veining. It's super dark, and a lot of the hybrids made with GPH are super pink. My hope was that one of the offspring from this batch would kind of have a GPH look, GPH reminiscent look. So far, I don't know, but here are 3 more that I've kind of not definitely held back, but I've potted them up to 4-inch and threw them in my tent. So whatever that means. Here's one I thought was quite nice because the venation is really thin. So there were a lot like this, and I just wanted to make sure I saved one for myself. The sinus is really pink, but we'll see what the next leaf look like, because that would be the first leaf after potting up to 4-inch. This one hasn't really rooted up much. There's only a little bit of roots on the side. I think I potted this up maybe 2 weeks ago. Here's another one that I thought might be interesting because it's very narrow so far, but it can drastically change within the next few leaves. Let's see. Oh, nice big root here. A new leaf is just popping out of the sheath there, so we'll see how that one goes. I sold a lot of the more robust ones in this one, so it's definitely not like the strongest of the batch, but I thought the narrowness and the venation was quite interesting. And then this one I just thought was really cute because the veins are so messy. Like the veins are not very defined. They're very unclean. It kind of looks like it was scrawled by someone with their non-dominant hand. And it's also pushed a new leaf. So I think I'm the most excited about this one of the ones I just showed you. So the ones I put into 4-inch, I'm kind of like, maybe I'll keep them, but I obviously can't keep them all. So I might sell them later, but this is to kind of accelerate their upsize. But this one was really dark and the veins are so minimal. It's just put out a new leaf. So that will also be the first leaf post repot. I think I did this repot like 3 days ago, so there's no visible root growth yet. And by the way, this one is in tree fern perlite because I was too lazy to make a new batch of pond because I was out. And I actually forgot about this one in this bin, but I isolated this one as my favorite long time ago. So this one is really dark, very Carla heavy, and the veins are quite pink. I know it's not showing up super pink on camera, but hopefully it's showing up somewhat pink. But I thought this one could have the Carla look that I was looking for. Okay, last one I want to show you my tent because this one is currently Velcro tied to the shelf, so I didn't want to bring it down. This is not my hybrid. This is a plant I got from my friend Joseé, so I just called this the Joseé plant. But it's Fortune and Rothlinum crossed with Carla Dress. This is one of those dark, minimally veined plants with a very elongated dagger shape that I've been really, really loving. So I don't know if you guys will remember, this was maybe like 4 or 5 months ago. I don't really remember, but Charmaine came over with some pollen from her plant from the same seed batch. So a sibling to this one, and she pollinated mine with hers. So lucky for us, it did take, and I've just about finished harvesting seeds. So there's like, oh, it won't focus. There's like 1 or 2 berries left. So as I've been harvesting and cleaning the seeds, I've been spreading them into 2 separate containers, or like 2 separate batches. So one half is for me, one half is for Charmaine. They are maybe 2 days into planting, so they haven't even started. Well, some of them are looking like they're ready to push out their first root, but there's some. I'm just calling it Joseé F2, by the way. I have some in there. I have some in the cell trays. I usually do like 1 or 2 cell trays per batch, and then any extras I put into here. So like the first seeds that come off of the plant, I put in the cell trays because those ones tend to get going faster. And then the last harvested ones, for me, I find that they kind of straggle for a little bit and they do eventually catch up, but I put the first harvest into the cell trays. Charmaine's I just put into this container, but that is a hybrid that I'm quite excited for because I love my plants so much. I love hers too. They're very different, but they're both very dark and elongated. Mine just has the blister variegation and it's a little bit more pancakey. Oh, there's a hummingbird. But I've been dealing with so many like silvery veined seedlings for my last few breeding efforts that I'm excited to grow out something like dark and minimal and sharp. Another little breeding update. This is my contaminated Carla, which is a batch of Carla Blackier seedlings from NSC that got contaminated. So this one is obviously not pure Carla, but I don't know what the other parent might be. It is honestly one of my favorite plants. It's so dark, the veins are really clean, and it usually keeps like quite a pink sinus, and the venation is quite pink on new leaves. It just put out a new leaf, but the exciting thing is when I selfed it last, it did take. So fingers crossed that it goes all the way to seed and it doesn't abort and the berries are happy and healthy. But I'm also really excited for this batch. This is a selfing that I tried before. It didn't take the first time, but this time it did take. So fingers crossed for this one. So those are the updates I was the most excited to share today, and I'm going to end this video here because my camera battery keeps dying. I don't know if it's the heat, but the battery has died so many times today, even though I have it charging right now. So I have been filming a lot longer than the length of this video would suggest. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day has been lovely so far. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Mwah!